welcome, Devin, to Metalladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you again because like
Thank
we
you, man.
spoke
It's
last
good to
year.
see you.
Yes,
Yep.
we spoke last year yeah, about the last album, like work. Now we speak about well, a lot of more things about your music, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
how have you been these months with the band, with the reception of the last album, live work?
It's been a lot of touring, and now I'm able to sort of be in a place where I can start to write again. And the reception of the last record was good. It was it was an important record for me to do because I it was very appropriate to where I was at the time. But now that I'm finished it and now that I'm on the other side of it, I have plans to really do something uncompromised. And so I've been setting up my world so that when I write and when I create my next work, there's no there's no rules. I think light work I loved the record because I did it in a way that I was proud of, but there were a lot of rules on that record. I worked with a producer and that was new for me. And I think it was cool. But now I realize that what I do next, I don't want any rules. So right now I'm doing well actually, but I'm also really excited about what comes next.
Okay. I remember that you told me last year that touring is very expensive for all artists. So now you are back on stage. How did you all these issues of high prices, immensely expensive buses, etc., and how this is issue affecting the life of professional musician like you?
Well, what I've chosen to do now actually is not tour for 2 years, not just because of the cost, but because I really want to focus on writing. It's been so many years since I've had the opportunity to write like with purity. By that, I mean, over the past 15 years, so much of my life has been record, tour, record, tour, record, tour, record, tour. And it's been good, but it also, I haven't had enough time to really sit and develop uh, uh, concepts in the ways that I want to. So the cost of touring now is actually a benefit for me because it gives me an opportunity to say, okay, let's not do that for a while so I can focus on the work. And then when I do come back on tour in a couple of years, maybe costs will be lower.
Okay. We're talking about other kind of aspects because I love to speak with you because you have a different point of the music and entertainment area in general. So one day I read an article about how free will in the entertainment is controlled or directed by the big capitals or and algorithms. So and it's not like the 80s and 90s anymore that you like something because you on the cover or because you just found it's attractive for that. So, and with that article, it was said that the free will is lost now. So, especially for the new generations who are looking for the whatever they are on YouTube, on Google, asking for answers, etc. So, do you
Yeah.
think that the free will within the area of entertainment now is lost? How does this issue of algorithms affect your vision of making music?
I don't think it's lost. No, I think that free will exists. It um it moves and has moved though. Like the idea of free will, I think is intrinsic to being a human. And so whether or not it manifests in the same way as it used to, I think that even if you are presented with an algorithm that gives you limited options, within those options, you're still going to have preferences. You're still going to have free will in that regard. And I think that people in our generation, you're probably a little younger than me, but same sort of generation, we look at the changes that are happening and think there's no way that a younger generation would be able to navigate that and find things for themselves. But I have children and I watch how they discover, and a lot of it is you're able to discover a lot of things and sort of bypass that algorithm. Even, for example, like if you're a kid and you're listening to Spotify, as opposed to listening to everything that comes up in your suggested reels on YouTube or whatever, a lot of these streaming services have radio stations. So on Spotify, it's like if you like Led Zeppelin, you put on Led Zeppelin radio, and it just sort of goes through all sorts of bands that sound like that. And just by doing that, I find that kids find new things accidentally. So I don't think that free will doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist in the ways that we're used to. So I think we can be forgiven for thinking it doesn't exist, but I would argue that it still does very much.
Mm. Okay. And we're in years there are no more bands that fill stadiums, and everything is personalized by tastes and colors. And now, thanks to the TikTok trends, there are really silly and even implausible trends of stupid things that happen with all that on the social media. So, what do
Yeah.
you think are enters in this generation that already consumes little or nothing physical material and only takes music as an accompaniment to work, to wash the car, go to the
Yeah.
gym, etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything goes in cycles in my experience. Um, there's sometimes when certain types of media fall out of favor and then are replaced by other things. And although the internet isn't new, in terms of the species, it's relatively new. And because that now we're presented with a whole new way of consuming media, and so much of that is visual now. It's like looking at it and having it as a counterpart, like you say, to your day. And so the pendulum has definitely swung towards that as being the way to consume it. But I feel that music uh, is a human need, and I think that that helps also with things like artificial intelligence as well. Artificial intelligence is a fantastic tool to help humans in some way um, express their humanity if you're using it for that. If you're just watching AI, I mean, it's very clear on some fundamental level that it's not made by a human, but still, at least, I mean, at this point. But I think that in terms of how we consume it and how we're going to be able to monetize music in the future, I think you just have to wait for the pendulum to swing back the other way. Because if it is a necessity, human beings decorate time with sound. That's the way I look at it. And if it is that way, there's always going to be a market for it. There's always going to be a need for it. And the thing that makes it so beautiful is if you learn the craft of making music, what comes out of you is specific to your personality. So there's never going to be, someone who can do it like Javier, or someone can't do it like Devin. And I think that there's space for that still. I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong, but for me, I enjoy the act of making music, and I find that there's people that enjoy the act of listening to it still. So I'll take it.
No, great, great, great. Last year, last year you told me well last year you told me that your music is strange and weird. You have this point of view. But now that everything is very personalized and there are more strange, technical, progressive, experimental, avant-garde things, and with many bands in the world and the planets normally now. So what do you think will happen to the next generation when listen to the music that is very personal now? Will be taking about the closing war for a new bands because they will no longer be a song on the radio because they prefer to listen more personal artists because for the playlist.
Well, I think that if you look back in time, like to the 1600s or 1500s, or when classical composers are working or jazz musicians, and then compare that to now. Yes, the way that it's presented has changed. Now we have different sounds and different styles, and technical death metal is certainly not something that existed back in the 1500s, but humans are the same, I feel, on so many levels. We have, love, hate, sadness, joy, like the real fundamental human emotions are the same. And I think what we represent now, through whatever style is popular or appropriate, is the same thing. I think that's why people can relate to Moonlight Sonata or Pachelbel's Canon or The Rite of Spring or any of these pieces of music from the past, or Django Reinhardt or anything. It's because it's all speaking about the basic human experience, and how it gets expressed is going to be appropriate for the time. But I don't think that matters much, really, in the long run. I think that the future generation will be singing and playing about the exact same things, but who knows? Maybe they've trained a dog to sing in the future, and it's over top of disco music. Who knows? But I think that fundamentally, what human beings express through art hasn't changed that much since the beginning of humanity. So I think we're okay.
Well, okay. I remember that I read some statement about from Corey Taylor from Slipknot that he loved to return to the old days, or old days when the people are, when the musicians or the bands are not very known at that time, the 90s, 80s, and everything is more personal at that time, no? So, but now when a band begins, it is a journey, if you know, and it's much easier to have access to the musicians at that time. Then the years go, then you go by, and some like you already has a status in the music as a musician, etc., etc. So,
totally.
So have you ever thought about going back to the beginning to make things simple?
No, man, no. Why? I mean, it's like, I remember a quote somebody said the other day to me. They were just like, man, I wish that this part of my life had turned out differently. And then another friend of mine said, it's like saying, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me to pine for the past or want to change things. Things are what they are, and they've always been what they are. And it's like the whole be in the present bullshit. It's like it's always been the present, and you just deal with it now in the same way that you dealt with it then. I think it's easy to romanticize the past. You see all these synthwave, vaporwave videos of people romanticizing the 80s and the 90s as if there was no political unrest and social unrest and drugs and war and violence. It's always been the case. So I think that perhaps looking in the past and wanting to be in a place where you're not is just more of a romantic sentiment than I am the type of person to want to participate in. Like, I don't think that way, man. I don't want to be anywhere other than where I'm at. Like, for good or bad, man. It's like, this is where I'm at, and that's cool. And I think that's the thing, is you just have to learn what the current thing asks of you, and then try to participate in that. Because other than that, man, you're constantly dissatisfied with what is, and that seems like a lot of effort.
Oh yeah. Another that I saw in the news, especially, and it's very popular with the musicians like your status, is that a lot of people are trying to complain about the backing vocals and live, and even I read an article about Jeff Scott Soto said about is the when you sing 15 songs each day, each night for 15 nights, your voice is tired sometimes. So,
Oh yeah.
and many people think, but other kind of musicians, they says that when if you using the backing vocals live and the people like it, you can use the backing vocals. It's normally because the people even like it. So what's your point of view when what's your point of view about this subject that is now in the media, the backing vocals? Is proper for you to use the backing vocals in live or not?
Well, I mean, it's funny because every time you look on metal sites, Blabbermouth or whatever, it seems like every day there's like
Yeah.
so and so musician weighs in about backing tracks. But you know, I don't care what other people think about it. I don't care what people think about what I think about it. The only thing I would say is I use the shit out of backing tracks because I try to write symphonies with my music, and I can't do it without the symphony shit. And I can't afford to have a symphony and a choir, so that's my solution. And I wonder, it seems to me that life is so complicated as it is, that of the things that people need to be concerned about with such ferocious opinions, that seems to be super fucking low on the list for me, man. Like, I I think my job when I play music live is to connect with people and try to entertain people and try and represent the music that I love, which is the music that I write, in the best way that I can. And if I can't afford to have a symphony with me, then out of out of uh uh principle, not representing those orchestral tracks with 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 a computer or something on stage, like I don't know who's winning with that. Is it the audience winning because
Yeah.
he's not lying to us? I guarantee you that anybody who's seen me play with orchestral music and symphony stuff coming through the speakers, I guarantee you no one's just like, wait a minute, they're not really playing that. It's like, of course I'm not fucking playing it. You know what I mean? Like an orchestra, of course I'm not playing it. That being said, in 2025, I'm doing The Moth with an orchestra. And so at that point, yeah, man, I don't need to use backing tracks for that because um, the powers that be have provided me an orchestra. But until such time that I can do that every night, then yeah, let's do what I have to do. But I have no opinions on it. It seems so petty and so
Yeah.
stupid to like be angry about shit like that, man. Like just do what you're gonna do. And if you don't like it, don't listen to it. And if you don't want to listen to it, like, man, there's probably enough problems in everybody's life that they can focus on those problems as opposed to how somebody else chooses to represent music that they love playing. It seems like a waste of energy, man. But if people feel like they need to have everything on backing track, like you go to a K-pop concert and everything's on tracks
K-pop.
and the audience loves it, then what's the problem? And if somebody all they want to use are vintage amplifiers and a curly cable and a 1959 Les Paul and they hate the idea of computers and their audience is like, yeah, fuck computers, then of course don't use computers. It's like that's absurd.
Yeah.
But for me, I just do what I think is appropriate and I just don't read the comments. And so if people like it or don't like it, it doesn't really matter to me because people still show up and they seem to have a good time. So fuck it. And I sing all my stuff and yeah, man, who knows?
Yeah, well, yeah, yes. The other aspects about other aspects about the news, as you can see now in the world, is when the people ask about, hey, we want to see Ozzy Osbourne live. We want to see Jason Berger live because they prefer to hear all the times classic, etc. So, but you
Yeah.
are a musician that still continue music. You are good. You are in good health, etc., etc. But I don't know why the fans and I think the media too ask for, hey, we need another concert for Ozzy Osbourne. Even Ozzy Osbourne, they show us that he's very sick for illness, etc., etc. So for you, in what point of their career an artist will be retired?
Well, I guess it depends on a couple things. First off, I think we answered the question with one of your last questions, in that currently people just use music for, you know,
Yeah.
going to the gym or washing their car. And therefore, music is a lot of it's nostalgia. You heard a song that reminded you of a time in your life that you loved, right? Like, there's people that'll say to me, hey, Ocean Machine came along at a time in my life where this was happening, and therefore the music's important to me. And I feel the same way, like King's X or Def Leppard or Metallica or whatever. So when people want artists to play live, even if they're sick or no good anymore, I don't think that they're demanding an artist to reinvent themselves. They just want that feeling again. That's all it is. They're just like, I just want that experience. That song reminds me of something in my life I love, and you're the person that did it, so I want to see you play live. So what I would say is, if people are aware that that's their reason for wanting to see these things happen, and the singer can't walk or he can't sing, then I think on some level you probably forfeit your right to complain about backing tracks. You know, if you like,
Yeah.
if the audience forces Ozzy Osbourne to go on stage and they hold him up with sticks, it's like they've got a crane to make him act because his back is fucked and his voice is fucked, then you can't go, hey, he didn't sing. He's like, no, man, he can't even walk. But if you want to see him, put his vocals on backing track. Go see Kiss with vocals on backing track, because I can't imagine a lot of people are going to see Kiss because they're wanting to see a master class in vocal prowess. They're wanting to go see Kiss because it reminded them of being 12 years old and being in the Kiss Army. So why wouldn't you want it to sound great? It's just like, doesn't make any sense, right? And then I think when it comes to the artist point of view of being asked to do things from your past, as an artist, what an honor. That's great. I love the fact that people like what I did when I was younger. Doesn't necessarily mean I can or will do it, but that's great. I love the fact that people still like what I did. That's awesome.
Well, yeah. So, after more than 30 years in your career, making music of many styles, in strapping your lad, hard rock, heavy metal, progressive metal, well, a lot of music, how would you define success in your career? Do you think there is a formula for your success with more than 20 albums?
Yeah, I do what I want, and I try to make sure that I love it. And I don't pay too much attention to whether or not other people will like it. But I'm fortunate that my internal barometer for whether or not I think something is cool is maybe 70% of the time in line with the audience. And I think the other 30% of the time where I do things that the audience is confused by or doesn't like, I think they're tolerant of it because they know that it's coming from the same place. They know that I'm not doing it because I'm trying to get a hit. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to appease a demographic. I'm doing it because it's what my heart wants me to do. And a 70% ratio of a supportive audience supporting your work is absurdly good. And the 30% that misses the mark, that's the stuff that is for me. It's the stuff that I would even say to the audience, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I don't know if this next thing I'm doing is going to appeal to many of you, but I have to do it. And I think that's what allows me to have a career is there's a lot of people trying to sell you and I things and lie to you about it, like when people are looking at you in the eyes and trying to sell you a used car. you're like I don't believe you, man. And so if what you're presenting as the basis of your work is, this is important to me, and we've been through a lot, the audience and I think that's what allows me to sustain this.
Yeah. Well, great. So we're very close to this interview, Devin, and for this aspect, So what kind of plans have now? Now, you told me that when you are present when you are embarked for a compose new album, perhaps you will do a few things more about this.
Yeah, I've got so many ideas. And the first step to making those ideas a reality was to stop touring for a while and to just focus on getting my own mind and family balanced. And then from there, my hope and my expectation is that all the experiences that I've had over the past 15 years, I'll be able to process. And that's when my best work happens, is when I'm able to have a really clear view on who I am, where I've been, where I'm going. And I haven't had that clear view for many years because of the amount of travel that I've been doing and then the pandemic and everything. So now I'm working on huge amounts of things, man, like just more than I've ever been working on, really. But the difference now is I don't want to put it out every 3 months. I want to spend the time and make it exactly how I want it. I want it to sound perfect. I want it to be perfect for me. I want it to be really creatively thought out, and that's what I'm doing now. And so I'm currently still in the preparation period of that, to be honest. There's been a lot of work that I've had to do just to carve myself out the time so that I can do this. But I think it's worth the effort, and I'm so excited about it, man.
Great, great, great to know. Well, Devin, the sad times are up at this interview. Uh, I hope you enjoyed this one.
I
Love to
did, thank
talk,
you.
love to talk with you for the second time. So it was a really, really pleasure. Perhaps we want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect someday about a full tour because you play here, but just few dates, not a full complete tour on all countries, and
Well, you know,
perhaps
it's
with a
funny.
little followers.
It's funny. It's like whenever I put up tour dates, I see, come to South America, come to Latin America. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's always this. But what I will say is I haven't had an offer. And the offers that I have had, I can't afford to do it. I can't, with the money that was offered, I can't bring the band, I can't bring the gear. So as much as maybe the Latin American audience feels like I'm consciously not coming to Latin America, I'd come in a minute if I had the right opportunity. I just haven't had it yet. I haven't had an offer from a promoter that is that I'm able to do it yet. So I want to come as much as some of the people there want to see it, but it's out of my hands until someone brings me there. So I'll leave it. I'll leave that out in the leave that out in the air, and maybe someone will hear this and say, "Oh, really? Okay, great. Come down, and then we'll see you."